Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm so excited to have you. Today we're actually going to talk about Ovasitol, or more specifically the compound Inositol. And we're going to kind of go over the science behind it, what the research is saying, my personal experience with it, and just my personal opinion on using it in PCOS and other metabolic issues. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jessica Ash, and I'm a functional and clinical nutritionist who specializes in hormones and metabolism. I work mostly with women who have PCOS and hypothyroidism and other metabolic issues, and I teach them how to balance their metabolism using food and nutrients and different lifestyle practices. And if you're like me and you like to nerd out on metabolism, but you also like just simple action steps, you like to learn the science, but then you also just want to know what to do, stick around, like, and subscribe, because there's going to be more videos like this coming your way. Now, I get tons of questions on Inositol. People are always asking me, what do you think about Inositol? What do you think about the supplement Ovasitol? Because it's a super popular supplement in the PCOS community. And as someone who has also struggled with PCOS symptoms and has been diagnosed with PCOS in the past, I have had my own experience using Ovasitol in different applications. And so, as the nerd I am, I really like to explore the why, the mechanism of action behind how is something working, why is something working, because there are some compounds out there that maybe achieve a result that you want by doing something that you don't want and end up having to pay for later. And so those are compounds that you end up sometimes regretting taking, and so there are supplements out there that do stuff like that. And so we want to be focused on those supplements that do something beneficial in our body to help take stress off the body so that we can balance our hormones and we can achieve better metabolic health over time. We don't want to be paying for a positive result now by taking or stealing from our future. Now, I hate to break it to you, but there's really never one supplement that fixes something, or there's never one supplement that's just gonna magically erase all of the issues, because a lot of metabolic conditions are death by 1,000 cuts. It's taken a long time and a lot of different habits to get there, and so it's going to take some time and breaking some habits to get out of that place. And so I hope it's just obvious that one thing is not going to be this magic fix-all. However, when you look at reviews on Ovasitol, or you look at women's experiences with Ovasitol, it's really easy to think that it's going to be this magic bullet, because so many women's successes with, regaining their cycles if they lost their cycles, or balancing their cycles out if they have irregular cycles, or getting pregnant, or helping with their insulin sensitivity, the results and the reviews, like the proof is kind of in the pudding. There's a lot of women who have seen a lot of success with Ovasitol. But being the nerd I am, I like to understand the mechanisms of action. I like to understand why these results are happening. And sometimes with emerging sciences or emerging research, you don't know all of the whys, or you don't know all of the answers, but it's kind of interesting to see some of the answers that are coming to light regarding the compound Inositol. But I just want to remind you that supplements are only a tool to be used with nutrition and lifestyle, because if we take a supplement and we expect it to fix something, if we feel better on that supplement, it's probably only going to act like a band-aid, and eventually we're going to have symptoms continue to pop up because we haven't fixed our nutrition and lifestyle or found what is the most biologically supportive diet for us and our needs. Now, what is Inositol? Well, Inositol is actually a compound that's regularly found in our foods. It's found in a lot of plant foods, and it's also synthesized by our body. Our body will actually make it endogenously, and it's mostly made in the kidneys and a little bit in the liver, but it's made in some other organ systems as well. And it's actually a product of glucose metabolism. So when our body's utilizing glucose or blood sugar well, it's going to produce inositol. Inositol is going to be created efficiently and in high enough forms. And the research shows that our liver and kidneys can make up to like 4 to 5 grams of it per day, which is actually quite a lot of inositol. Now, for a long time, it was considered and has been considered a part of the B vitamin family, but now there's a little bit of confusion and also argument on if it's considered a B vitamin or not, if it's an essential nutrient or not. I'm not really sure, but it does have a huge role to play in metabolic function, like many B vitamins. So I am just gonna say it's really important for metabolic function. It's a really important compound. Is it a B vitamin? Is it not? I'm not sure, but we know it's important. It actually has a lot of similarities to a sugar. It's very, very close structurally to glucose. So it's just very interesting when you actually look at the chemical structure of inositol. Now, there are different derivatives of inositol. So the one that we mainly get in plant foods is myo-inositol. That's pretty commonly the supplements that include inositol or are inositol. It's usually myo-inositol. But there are other derivatives of inositol as well. One that you might be familiar with is dichiro-inositol. Another one that's a popular supplement or kind of gaining popularity is IPC, or inositol hexaphosphate. So there are derivatives of that main inositol, and because our body can make it and synthesize inositol, one form of inositol can turn into a different derivative of inositol. Our body can kind of change what inositol looks like. Now, the supplement Ovasitol, specifically by Theralogics, which, by the way, I have no affiliation with. I'm just, curious. I'm just digging into it, and I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. But Ovasitol is famously touted to be a 40-to-1 ratio of myo-inositol to dichiro-inositol. Now, there's still some debate as to if this is important or not, if this even matters or not, because like we said before, inositol has many different derivatives, and the body could possibly make those derivatives itself using myo-inositol. However, looking at the ovarian tissue or the cells in the ovaries, their ratio of inositol is 40-to-1, which is kind of their argument, is that the 40-to-1 ratio is the most similar to what would be found in the ovarian tissue. But there's no denying that women with PCOS have seen incredible results using the supplement Ovasitol. So, as you see, women are regaining their periods and balancing out their cycles and getting pregnant. It's hard to deny that there's something going on with this 40-to-1 ratio of myo-inositol to dichiro-inositol. But kind of being the nerd I am, I just want to understand why that might be. And so that's what I've compiled here today. So the main thing that's touted regarding inositol is insulin sensitivity, that it helps women become more insulin sensitive. Now, what is insulin? Well, insulin is kind of this amazing hormone that I think gets demonized a lot, but in reality, it's an important blood sugar lowering hormone. So your pancreas is going to secrete insulin, and then that insulin is going to actually act as a key to allow blood glucose into the cell. Now, when you're very insulin sensitive, when your cells are super sensitive to insulin, they only need a little bit of insulin to have them open up and allow that blood sugar in. But over time, if your cells are insulin resistant, whether that's due to gut issues, improper fats coming in the diet, high cortisol, deficient magnesium levels, the list goes on and on, the body has to secrete more and more insulin so that you're going to respond to it and allow the blood sugar in. And women who are very insulin resistant are no longer responding to insulin very well at all. And what's happening is insulin levels are remaining elevated in the blood, as well as blood sugar, because blood sugar is not getting into the cell. Simultaneously, the cells are starving because they're not getting the sugar that they need to run optimally. So when you regain insulin sensitivity, you're allowing the cells to get the fuel that they need, as well as lowering the stress in the bloodstream. When blood sugar is very high or insulin is very high, that can be very, very stressful and cause sometimes like hyperandrogenism or those androgen-like symptoms that are pretty common in PCOS and other issues. Now, there's definitely a lot of research that still needs to be done regarding inositol and insulin sensitivity, like what its effect on insulin signaling is, but they have done some research showing that people who have severe insulin resistance, like type 2 diabetics, have lower levels of dichiro-inositol in their muscles and are peeing out higher levels of myo-inositol than people who don't have diabetes. So that could be a correlation. Do we know if that's a cause or an effect of insulin resistance? No. So is it the inositol deficiency that's actually driving the insulin resistance, or is it the insulin resistance and poor glucose metabolism driving low inositol levels? That remains to be seen. But what we do know, based on a man named Michael Berridge's work, who is actually a very famous British physiologist and biochemist, he found that myo-inositol specifically plays a very big role in the balance and regulation of calcium. And inositol itself has some really effective cell stabilizing effects because inositol is actually affecting the cellular membrane. Now this man, Michael Berridge, he was this amazing scientist and he devoted his whole life to the study of inositol and calcium. Now, if you're familiar with my work, you know that I am very obsessed and very interested in mineral metabolism, how our balance of minerals affects our metabolism, the importance of minerals when we are balancing out our metabolism, and focusing on regulating our minerals when we're trying to balance out our metabolism. Those are all really important things. If we want better metabolic health, minerals are the main thing that run the show. Minerals are going to be the thing that's responsible for signaling enzymes, and enzymes are really going to determine where your biology and what your body is doing. Now, if you've ever read The Calcium Lie by Kathleen Barnes and Robert Thompson, you'll know that calcium dysregulation and high amounts of calcium in the soft tissue are very metabolically stressful and can actually lead to insulin resistance, which makes me wonder, is part of the insulin sensitizing effects of inositol actually its ability to regulate calcium from inside the cell and move it outside the cell? We can thank Michael Berridge for that research, and if you want to read more about that, you can read it in the description box below. Another one of the reasons that Ovasitol and inositol could be insulin sensitizing is its ability to actually shift the intestinal microbiota. In this article, it was actually shown that there's some evidence showing that it has the ability to really shift the ecosystem of the digestive tract into a more favorable way for both lipid metabolism and also carbohydrate metabolism. So not only is your body regulating like triglycerides and fats better, but possibly also regulating the use of carbohydrates better. As we know, there's so much mounting evidence showing the relationship between the gut and bacteria in the gut and carbohydrate metabolism and just metabolism as a whole. There's that gut-brain connection, so its effect on the nervous system, as well as its effect on systemic inflammation and chronic conditions. So it's safe to say that if inositol is shifting the gut in a more favorable direction, that could be one of its mechanisms of action as well. This could be why some people who start taking Ovasitol or inositol actually start to get some not so great digestive symptoms at first, maybe, bloating, gas, diarrhea. Is it possible that it has a prebiotic effect and is actually shifting the microbiota in a more favorable direction? We shall see. Another benefit I was able to find was actually a possible beneficial effect on thyroid health, which would make sense because if you're familiar with my work, you know that the fundamental of good hormones is a really, really healthy thyroid and good high thyroid function, because remember that the thyroid is actually considered the third ovary, and if the thyroid's under functioning, the thyroid's not doing well, ovarian hormones are going to be out of whack 100% because the body has to make up for that stress in one way or another. Thyroid hormone, specifically T3, actually helps the body utilize sugar better and is very important in insulin sensitivity. So this is why people with hypothyroidism are commonly slightly insulin resistant, if not full-blown insulin resistant. It's because the thyroid actually determines how well your cells take up sugar, and every single cell's energy metabolism is regulated by thyroid hormone. And then I also found this really interesting correlation between myo-inositol and iodine in this study right here. And as you probably know, iodine is one of the most important minerals, if not the most important mineral, for the manufacturing of thyroid hormone as well as the thyroid gland's function overall. And so wouldn't it be interesting if myo-inositol is actually helping with the absorption of iodine, like this study is saying could possibly be the case? And one of the benefits that's touted with the use of inositol and Ovasitol is better lipid metabolism or better triglyceride levels. And interestingly enough, the work of Dr. Broda Barnes, he talks about how one of the diagnostic factors that was used long ago was high cholesterol for hypothyroidism. So if you had high cholesterol, that was one of the markers of hypothyroidism. And isn't that interesting that inositol and Ovasitol use over time is possibly showing to have beneficial effects on lipid metabolism? So it would make a lot of sense if inositol is actually affecting the thyroid positively, which is allowing the body to use sugar better and also help balance the cycles, which could both be a result of better thyroid function. And is it possible that inositol and Ovasitol use leading to better triglycerides could also be because of better thyroid function? We shall see. Now, the last thing to go over is iron. If you're familiar with Morley Robbins's work, or if you've been around my Instagram for a while, you'll know that I talk a lot about how the overuse of iron, the improper non-bioavailable form of iron in fortified foods, has really led to iron overload in this generation of our population. We're exposed to all these unnatural levels of non-bioavailable iron, and then of course we're deficient and depleted in the very minerals that we need to utilize that iron properly, so that iron's storing up in our tissues, and oftentimes it's either high or low in our bloodstream. But what really matters is, what is it doing in our tissues? Well, oftentimes it's sitting there, and if we are also consuming other toxins that react with iron, what happens is the iron is now oxidizing. Now, oxidation is responsible for all types of issues. It's what requires a higher need for antioxidants. So the more oxidation we have in our body, the more antioxidants that we need. But it's a very damaging process, and has been correlated with things like metabolic issues, thyroid issues, autoimmune diseases, digestive issues, you name it, the list goes on and on. But if you look over at Dr. Shamsuddin's work at ip6.net, you'll find that he talks about how IP6, or inositol hexaphosphate, has a particular mechanism of action of binding or helping prevent this oxidation of iron from occurring. And so wouldn't it be interesting if inositol is also helping protect against the damaging effects of oxidizing iron in our tissues? That could mean amazing effects on metabolic function and more. So really, Ovasitol and Inositol is showing some very promising things for metabolic function, some promising results, and we can't really deny the beneficial effects that all these women are seeing, that these women with PCOS are experiencing. And I'm really, really happy to say that I like it as a supplement. I think that it can be an incredible tool in your toolbox, especially when you're trying to balance things out. I don't think it's like a magic fix-all, but I think it can be an amazing supplement in addition to a very strategic nutrition and lifestyle plan, or a very pro-metabolic eating style like I teach in Fully Nourished. And you might be asking, well, why do I need to supplement it if my body makes it and I get it from plant foods? Well, here's some reasons why it could be possibly strategic to supplement it, at least for a little while. The first one would be maybe lowered endogenous production. Maybe we're not making as much as we should in an optimal body. When we're experiencing imbalances, oftentimes our liver and our kidneys are the first ones to become burdened, because they are those detoxification organs that are really responsible for dealing with all these metabolic byproducts. And so, when the body's burdened, those are kind of the first organs to start prioritizing what they should and shouldn't be spending their energy on. And wouldn't it be interesting if our endogenous production goes down when our liver and kidneys are burdened, which would make sense. Another reason is we could possibly have higher needs for inositol when we have metabolic imbalances or poor glucose metabolism. Maybe our body actually needs more, or something called the burn rate is increased. This happens a lot of times with magnesium and other minerals. We burn through them faster than we can intake them. And this usually happens as a result of stress. And as the body balances out over time, our use of these things go down. You can almost think of it as like a top spinning out of control. As it starts to spin out of control, it kind of wobbles all over the place, and you want to provide it more stability, not less. Another possible factor would be impaired digestive absorption of inositol. A lot of times with metabolic imbalances come digestive imbalances or digestive issues, maybe impaired absorption, impaired detoxification from being constipated or having irregular bowel movements. And so it's really important to consider that if your digestion isn't optimal, you possibly could need more of certain compounds in order to get enough for your body's use of it. And it could be a mix of all three. You know, we could be using more than we're intaking, we might not be absorbing it well, and we may not be making as much as we would in a more metabolically balanced body. So it could be all of those three factors combined, increasing our need for inositol and its derivatives. But as of now, just because my curiosity was piqued researching this video and looking at it, I am doing an inositol, an Ovasitol experiment on myself, and I'm actually combining Ovasitol with a pro-metabolic diet like I teach you guys in my online course, Fully Nourished. I think I'm on day 17 right now, and I'm planning on doing it for about 3 to 6 months, which is what a lot of women say, like you have to take it consistently every day for 3 to 6 months to see the full results, and I will actually report back to you and record another video to show you what I found. Now, I personally have balanced cycles. I don't have a lot of PCOS symptoms, so I might not be the best to experiment on, but I'm still, very particular about looking at all my results and keeping track of every little thing that is a positive factor, and I will let you guys know what I think. But as of now, so far, I've seen better energy, an increased number in my temperatures and pulses, which are some amazing metabolic markers that you guys can learn how to use in my free temps and pulse training, which is linked down below. And I've also seen a little bit less bloating, a little less water retention. So all positive factors. I'm going to continue to pay attention. I'm going to continue to watch for all my metabolic markers like my cycle. I'm going to look at my sleep. I'm going to look at, my muscle building. I'll look at everything and I will report back to let you know what I think. But regardless, to close out this video, no supplement is going to be a fix-all. No one supplement is going to fix everything. I wish it could. I wish that was the case, but there's really not a magic pill, unfortunately. However, there are some amazing tools that we can put in our arsenal. And if you haven't already seen my other PCOS supplement video about nutrients and supplements, I highly recommend checking that out. But I wanted to make a specific video just on Ovasitol because I get so many questions on it. And I wanted you kind of to decide for yourself, to figure out if this is something you want to try, you want to experiment with, and make an informed decision about your own body. See you in the next video.